Hey everybody, my name is Todd Hammer. Welcome to my channel. If you like what you see here, like the video please, subscribe would be nice. What we're going to do is run through a series of videos. I don't think I'm going to get done in this one. We're going to run through a simple design in Onshape, and then our goal of course is to get a DXF drawing, because that's what you're going to import into either carvco or carbide, create, or whatever your CNC code generator is. But I wanted to show you Onshape. Many have not seen it or used it or are unfamiliar with CAD programs. So that's our goal in this little session. We're going to draw a simple box, but first let's talk about Onshape a little bit. If you've never used it, go to onshape.com, right? And you can go sign in. You're going to get this screen. Just if you don't have an account, sign up. And here's what I want to show you. Public, okay, thank you. Public maker plan, that's what you're going to use if you don't want to pay for anything. That's what I use, it's no problem. The biggest difference is the files that you create are available to the public. Okay, so don't do anything you don't want anyone else to see. So I'm going to go log in. So for example, I've got all of these designs. These are mine. I clicked my Onshape, but you can also go to public and you can search for all kinds of stuff, and it's amazing how much stuff is out there to find. Alright, so just be aware of that anything you create here is available to anybody, and that's fine with me. I'm not creating anything top secret. So for today I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it small example box, just for good housekeeping. Okay, so you see the folder pop up here. Let's click on that. I'm going to create a document. Again, small example box is the name of my document. So here's what you're given. Alright, notice first off you have this part. You also have an assembly. The assembly is blank for now. Don't worry about that. Let's look at our part. Now we could create our individual parts piece by piece and then assemble them over here. It's one way to do it. And you could have several parts. It's as easy as hitting plus and you create a new part. But that's not what we're going to do. Onshape supports something called, I believe they call it part in part. There's also something called top-down assembly. But basically we're going to create this to where we can modify a few settings or variables, and the whole box is going to change for us. Alright, so let's go over a few concepts you need to know if you've never used 3D CAD design. It's just like real life. There's a front view, right view, top view. Just imagine you're holding this box in your hand, and these are labeled nicely. Here's your right, here's your front, here's your top, and of course always be aware of where X, Y, Z is. I'm holding down my right mouse button and rotating a little. Okay, a few little view things. You've got this view right here where you can say I want the trimetric, always bring me back. I can click on front, I can rotate it, click on right, and it's going to rotate it around. Okay, so that's sort of how you navigate your views. Pretty simple. And we'll keep explaining things as we go along. So the very first thing I want to do is define some variables that will define this part, like the length, width, height, for example, the thickness of those sides. Now I happen to know that if you hit this, wrong button, actually it's this search tools. If you don't see the variable, this little setting in your toolbar, search for it, okay? And then it's going to pop it up there. Now first thing I'm going to call this one is, let's do the height, H-E-I-G-H-T. We'll make it 3 inches. Okay, and enter. Click the little green checkbox. And there it is. It shows up in our geometry. Let's do another one. We'll call it thickness. We'll make it 3/8 of an inch. Alright, check. Now notice these show up with a little pound symbol. That's going to come up later. Just make note of that for now. Let's do one more. I'm going to call this length and width, and we're going to make it 4 inches. Right? Because I'm going to have it perfectly square at all times. So now as we create parts and different things, we can reference these. We can use that pound height instead of typing 3. And that way it'll be consistent. And there's one place I need to change these later. You'll see what I mean. We'll demonstrate it. So the first thing I want to do is create some planes. We have the right. I want to define the left. We have front. I want to define the rear. Top. I want to define the bottom. So again, search for planes. Oops. In yours, it's going to look like this. Okay, see, there it is. It popped up in there. So I want an offset plane. Yes, that means I want to offset it from a current plane right there. Now you see that's not quite right. This is my front, so I want it to point the other direction. Click that arrow. I'm going to rename it rear. Okay, front and rear. And under the distance, this is where our variables come back in. We're going to say pound, and this is length and width. All right, hit checkbox, and boom, we just created a new plane there. Nice. Let's do another one, because I need an offset from the right. Yes, the other way, please. We'll call this, we'll pull up the length and width variable. We'll edit this and call it left. It's my left plane. Alright, there it is. Now one more. Let's do an offset of the top. So click my plane. Call this bottom. Now this one is a little different. Remember we created one called height. This is going to represent our height. And yep, do the arrow down. There we go, top, bottom. Alright, before you get too bored, let's create something, alright? So we know our height is 3 inches, our left to right is 4. So in this program, everything you do is going to start with a sketch. Okay, and a sketch has no depth to it, it's just flat. It's sort of a figurative thing, really has no thickness at all. It can't be measured in thickness, but you're going to, after that, extrude that sketch in different manners, different things, and create your 3D parts. All right. So let's first create a sketch. I want to do the front, and you see how it created my sketch plane right there immediately when I clicked front. Excuse me. Now, if you mess up, don't worry about it. You can hit this X again, and it unselects it. You can go click the one you really wanted. All right. So for now, I'm actually in my little sketch mode, and if you remember, we have the top, we have the bottom, we have the left and right. So really where I'm wanting to sketch is about right here. Alright, so it's not perfect, and that's no problem, because here's what you're going to do. We need to actually constrain these points to these other geometry things we created. For example, let's do coincident. We're going to say put this point on this plane always. Alright, it just moved it over. So why did we do that? Because this is the right side of the part, and this is the right side of the part we're drawing. Now let's do the same. It's still clicked. You see how it's blue? So I'm going to say give me this point. Always put it on the left plane. And there it is. We're going to do the same with this point. Put it on the top. Give me this point, and I don't even know where the bottom plane is. There it is. Okay. Now actually, now that we've done that, this part needs no dimensions or anything. It's tied to these planes from here on out. And as you change the length and width here, the height, this part will change right along with it. All right. So check this out. So we selected can complete the sketch. Let's go to trimetric. There's your sketch. Here comes the fun part. This little box up here is extrude. We're going to click that, click our sketch, and boom, check that out. Now I want it to go the other way, and I also want the depth to be tied to our variable we created right up front, which is thickness, right there. And we could label this. Let me do this. Part 1 extrude. Boom. So now you see we actually have a 3D part. There's the front of it. There's the right. And for myself, my plans on this is to cut it out on the CNC. So in order to do that, I want a 45-degree cut right across here on both sides. Just the sides though, I'm not going to do the bottoms. So to do that, you have a couple of options. We could use the chamfer. See this? Click the chamfer, select the edges you want to chamfer, which is that one and that one. Now how deep is this? Check it out. Let's go back to our thickness variable. Boom, there you go. Alright, let's hit checkbox to finish that. So we can say, look at the top. I see, okay, I got my 45s, I got my parts all constrained. Let's go trimetric. And notice this down here, see this little tape measure? Let's select that, and now I can start measuring stuff. If I want to double check my work, okay, the length is 4 inches, nice. I'm going to click out here, click that vertical, 3 inches, nice. I could even go point to point, and it'll tell me, okay, that's actually 5 inches across, but by the way, in the x-axis it's 4, in the z-axis it's 3. So very handy little measuring tool. Alright, now I need 3 more of these. So what we're going to use is I could use mirror, but that would only get me 1 more. I can't get one over on the side, so I want to use a circular pattern, which is right here, circular pattern. Now what circular pattern is going to ask for, in fact it'll tell you there, select the part, select the axis, specify the angle, specify the number. What we don't have right now is the axis, because the axis of this is going to be right about in here. It's between the top, between the front and the rear and the right and the left. All right. So how do we get that axis? We're going to create 2 more planes. If we can find the plane box, that's not it. Sorry, plane. All right. Now this time we're going to use this option here called mid plane. Let's rename this to right, left, mid. Now you don't have to name all of this, guys, but you're going to kick yourself later if you don't. Because you'll have all of these planes and things here and not know what they're attached to. All right, so we got mid plane, gave it a new name. Now we select 2 items. This is right, left. So pick these in any order, and boom, see it created your mid plane. All right, let's do 1 more. I need 1. Call this one front, rear, mid. Again, change this to mid plane because I want one at the midpoint of here and here. Alright, so I need to draw an axis, and check this out, guys. Here is where this axis needs to be, because this is going to be my point of rotation, is this very center. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. Let's do a sketch. I'm going to select this mid plane, Okay, you see my little sketch window popped up. To make it simple, let's go to front. And you can make this anywhere, but I do want this. Just make a line. Just throw it over here. See how it automatically constrains itself to vertical. Okay. I'm going to escape from the line. Now, just like before, we want to put this line. We're going to use coincident. We want this line on this midplane. Alright, and that's really all we need. We don't need any dimensions or anything. Let's just accept it. Now what that gave us is this line to rotate about. So let's now try our circular pattern. It's going to ask, okay, what parts do you want to pattern? I want this one. What's the axis of the pattern? I selected it. It's that line right there. Boom. Now it popped in 4 just by default. You can change this to 5, I believe. But of course, that's not what we want. But just to show you, you can change your number and your angle as well. So it's equal spacing. Alright, so check it out. Hit the green check box. We're finished. Now notice, when it did that pattern, it created 3 more parts. Part 1 was the original. Now we got part 2, part 3, part 4. So there's most of our box done. Now we're going to create a bottom for it as well. Now the bottom, of course, we're going to make this one internal. We won't put anything on, or should we, for an extra challenge. Tell you what we're going to do. No, we're just going to make it inside. So the same way before, remember, everything starts with a sketch. Let's sketch. Where's it going to be? It's going to be on the bottom plane that we created, which is here. I can rotate it around. Can I see the bottom? There it is. It says bottom. But I do know that it's right here. Alright, so I should have my best view from the top. And just as before, we're going to constrain this to these 4 sides. Alright, so as this box grows, this bottom is going to grow with it. We're not going to explicitly tell the design how big this bottom is. We just know it's always going to follow these. So let me just throw some random square in there. We're going to use the same deal, coincident. Put this point on this line. Put this point on this line. You can also use the same point for this bottom. This point for this one. Alright, check box. Now do I have a 3D part down there? No. Remember, I only have a sketch. So that we can make it 3D though. At this point, also let me show you. You can turn off all of these planes. See the little eye icon? I'm going to check those off. Because it's starting to get a little confusing in there. I don't know if you're with me on that or not. What else we got? These planes, these planes. What else? Right, front, top, and left. Okay, those are at the top here. Right, front, right. Alright, now we're just seeing our part and our sketch is still in there. So we're going to hit extrude. See how it selected the sketch? Though the sketch has no thickness, Onshape knows it's a shape and it sort of gives it a center. So when I select that center, it's selecting the sketch itself. Alright, so check that out. Now, by default, it's coming in at 1 inch, but nope, we want that the same thickness as everything else. So pound thickness. Is it going the right direction? I believe it is. That's it. Hit check. Oh, hang on. Let's rename it. BOTTOM extrude. Okay, bottom extrude. There it is. And it's sort of cool because Onshape actually, as you create these new parts, makes them different colors. So look at our list of parts now. This last one is our bottom. I can actually right click that and say let's rename it so I'm not confused later, because this is simple, right? 5, 6 parts, but you might have 20 parts, and at that point it could become really confusing. Side 1, side 2, even though these are basically the same part. Side 3. Come on. Side 4. Alright guys, so here comes the cool part, alright? If that wasn't cool enough. You may be thinking, why did we create these variables? Here's where the beauty comes in. Let's say I made this box this week. I cut it out in my CNC, whatever, and someone says, hey, I'd like a 6-inch box. Let's come here to our variable. Now blank this out because it actually runs down this list of things from top to bottom. Okay, so when I went to edit this one, it blanked everything else out because this came first. Alright, so let's make this 6 inches now. Hit the checkbox, boom. There it is, 6 inches. So we can measure it to hit our measuring tape. 6 inches in length, that's good. Oops, that's midpoint. 6 inches. Nice, right? Now we can also change our thickness. Let's come up here to thickness. Okay, I want this actually to be thinner this time. Maybe it's too bulky last time. I'll make it 1/4 of an inch. Now all of a sudden, we've got a thinner box. Let's measure it. Let's measure. Select that face. Select this face. What does it tell me? Parallel distance 0.25 of an inch. So you can see why we're constraining these parts to each other. And really, as of now, we don't have any dimensions. The only dimensions on this are these variables. Now, it's not always going to be that simple, but for a simple part like this, it is. You want to create a top? Let's do that. Now, for this top, let's have it stand up. And actually, to have done that, we sort of already set the top plane, but we're going to ignore that. This top is going to have to poke up above it because of what I want to do. Let's create a top that is above it, but also sits down into it. Alright? Okay, so to create something, what does everything start with? A sketch, right? Yes. So let's hit sketch. Now in this case, we want it on the top plane. Now that looks funny. Alright, let me turn this on. I know it's the top, but because of the way it's created, it looks like it's offset, but it's not. Let's turn it on so we can see. As I rotate that around, do you see that? It's sitting on top. That's because the XYZ of everything is in this part, and it's sort of, I don't like the way it builds around this. I think it should center it, but they didn't ask me when they created it. Alright, so we've selected the top as our sketch plane. Just as before, we want this top to actually extrude upwards, okay? So it's going to sit over the top of this entire box. Did I select my plane? I think I did. Sketch plane. Nope, I did not. Okay, now we have. So now the top of this box is our sketch plane. Same deal. Let's draw a box. You know what, this time? Let's make it bigger than the box. And now we're going to get into some dimensions, and you'll see how this works. Alright, before, let's change to the top view because it makes more sense. Before, we constrain these points to these sides. And this time, let's just say we always want this to be 1/8 of an inch overhang on all 4 sides. Oops, escape. So there is a dimension icon right there, dimension. Now this is pretty simple. We select this one, we select that, put that out there, 0.25, and oh, it actually created a rectangle. That's interesting. Negative 0.25. Select the line, select the bottom line. Negative 0.25 because it's outside the box. Alright. Did I say 1/8 or 1/4? Apparently I was thinking 1/4 because that's what I made it. So now, no matter how this box changes, this lip is always going to be 1/4 of an inch over. Now I could have set up a variable earlier, but I wasn't thinking that far ahead. As of now, though, this number is not going to change. It's going to stay 1/4. If I ever want to change that, I need to go back into the sketch and edit these dimensions. Because at this point, I just don't want to bother creating a variable. All right, let's do this. Let's hit complete. Let's go back to my trimetric view, my favorite. And you see your sketch sitting right on top of the box. Now, of course, we want to now extrude. Boom. Select the sketch. That's a little extreme, 1 inch. Do we want to make it the thickness? You know what? I don't. Because actually I want this box to also extrude down into it. So watch this. Instead of saying a blind one, let's say it's symmetrical. So it's going to extrude both top and bottom. See that? See how now it's going up and down? And for depth, we're going to put our variable of thickness. But watch this. We're going to say times 2. Because I wanted the thickness above and the thickness below. Nice. Let's edit this. Let's call it top extrude. Top extrude. And the new part it created down here, we're going to rename as top. Now you'll notice, if you're watching closely, you'll think, wait, that top intersects with the sides, and you're right, it does. We can also see this if we change the view to shaded with hidden edges. So if you go look at the front, for example, you'll know that the top of the box is here, and this like runs right over top of it. So what we want to do is actually take material out of this top from here to here, down to here, all the way around. Here's how we're going to do that. Let's go to trimetric. We're going to create yet another sketch. Now, where's our sketch plane going to be? It's going to be on this top plane, right? Because that is the top of the box, and to remove this little material, that's where we started sketching from. You'll see that here in a second. So trimetric, let's hit sketch. Yes, I can either select it on the model or just right out of the menu here. Top. Okay. There's my new sketch plane. Now this time, let's go back to top. I need this material from outside these walls right here. See these 4 walls of the inside of the box? This top is going to fit down in here, so I need to remove all this material here. So let's do this. Let's draw a box here. And I'm going to use my coincident. Yes, I want you to stay here. I want you to connect to the inside wall here. This line to the inside wall here. This point to the inside wall here. Okay, so that's the inside, but I need another box. Okay. Coincident. And I want this one to stay on the outside. That way, again, this thing will change no matter how big or small we make this box. It's always going to stick to these edges. And I'm not having to set any variables and figure all that out. Now, OnShape is smart enough to know it creates this little outside lip here. Let's just finish our shape. Let's call this, let's call it top clearing. Alright, so, see the little eyeball by my parts? These sides are sort of starting to get a little confusing. I'm going to click that eyeball and take those away. Now they're not deleted, but for the purposes of removing this sketch from the top, it's a little nicer to get rid of them. So this time, again, we're going to use the extrude because we want to take that sketch and extrude it down. Alright, extrude. Now if you're having a hard time picking things, you can hit the little key that's to the left of the number 1, and it'll start picking faces. And it gives you a list here. Top of face of clearing. Yes, that's what I want. Now, here's the thing. On your extrude menu, there's new, so to create a new part, to add to an existing part. In our case, we want to remove a part. Now it's actually all correct. It's going down. It actually gave a depth of 1, which we could stick with, but still sort of in the spirit of making this thing bulletproof, we're going to tell it, what if I made this top 2 inches at some point? I know it'd be crazy, but we're going to change it from blind to up to face, and we're going to select the face right here of this top. Now it will always follow that. So we've got remove. We can name this. We can say clear top. Call it lip. I don't know. Checkbox. There we are. You see your hidden lines. You see if we go to the top view. Now if we can bring our sides back in. Click our eyeballs. Everything's back. So now we got a top, bottom, sides. Look at our top view. We're all good, guys. Trimetric, right view. Of course, it's going to look the same. But see this hidden line right here? This is the bottom of our top piece now. So we can see there's no interference coming to these sides. Before we end it up tonight, because we're almost there, let's test this thing out a little more. We've got the top, we've got the bottom sides. Let's change the height to 5 inches. Look at that. Everything moves, everything generates. Thickness, we'll make it 1/2 inch. Boom. Everything goes right along with it. Length and width. What if we make it 2 inches? It's going to be weird looking, but it'll work. And at this point, even I can of course start measuring things and see what's the length of the inside of this thing. Hit that little line will tell me 1 inch. Back to trimetric. Alright, let's make this thing a little more reasonable. I'm going to go back to my original plan. Height was 3 inches. Thickness, you know what? I'm going to make it 1/4 of an inch. Length and width. I think I said originally let's do a 4-inch box. That's what I originally had in mind right there. So our next step, guys, is to create a drawing of this, which will also give us an option to create an DXF export, and you can take that in turn and bring it into your cam, your whatever it is, carvco, whatever. I've been using carvco a lot recently. I like it, and that's going to be our next step in our next video. All right, so come back again if you like what you see. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up on this video, and next round we'll create a drawing of this thing.